Welcome to This Week in Washington for January 30th, 2012. Last week was a busy week in Washington, and this week promises to be just as busy. At the end of the week, we received draft legislation on reauthorization from both the Senate Banking Committee and the House T&I Committee. We'll be analyzing that legislation and reporting to you later this week on what we see in the legislation that clearly meets the needs that we've suggested need to be addressed, as well as the problems that we see. Although it's early in the process of fitting the bits and pieces together, I would say that I am very concerned because both pieces of legislation call for maintaining the current levels of programs in these vital areas with no increases. As you know, we strongly believe that because of inflation alone and the additional needs for mobility of an older population and those with special needs, an increase in funds is very much warranted. However, both the House and the Senate seem to be struggling with finding the basic amount of money to make up for the shortfall in the Transportation Trust Fund. The Senate doesn't specify where they're going to find the additional amounts to maintain the current funding, but the House bill speaks to maintaining the current funding by increasing any number of taxes or user fees associated with oil and gas drilling, and there has been some discussion about fees associated with the Keystone Pipeline. That's an awful lot of money to generate from special fees, especially since this is a very difficult political period in terms of raising additional revenue. I would say that we were advocates early on for using oil and gas and energy production as a source of revenue for the Transportation Trust Fund. Let's hope that in the final analysis that can be one additional form of revenue we can have for the transportation program, since fuel taxes alone will not take us where we want to be. So if you'll keep watch, you'll see some additional information both in fast mail and in our website about what's on these specifics of these pieces of legislation. And as soon as we have unembargoed copies, we'll make them available to all of you for your own reading and review. Last week, I had a number of conversations also concerning the non-emergency medical transportation program. I had the opportunity to meet with representatives of CMS for several hours to discuss our ongoing issues and concerns about the program, and I also participated in a discussion at the AARP, as well as a separate one with our friends at Project Action and the American Medical Association about the future of the non-emergency medical transportation program. One of the most important things that came out of those discussions is the clear understanding and awareness of how important transportation is for successful medical outcomes. It does seem to me, especially from listening to our friends at the American Medical Association, that after all these years, everyone clearly gets the need. The problem is the structures for delivery and the structures that will be emerging in the managed care environment that is being pursued, especially for Medicaid. If you've read our dialysis article since it was released, you'll see there's good reason for us to be concerned, since there are so many riders and so many potential riders who don't fit into NEMT, who will need the kind of services that community and public transit provide, but we're going to need to find revenue for them that is obviously not going to come out of a transportation reauthorization held to the same level as this year. Amidst all these pieces of information and discussion, we also had our ambassadors in town for several days for discussions about what's going on in their world, and Karen at the Association for Commuter Transportation sponsored a symposium on transportation demand management. In these cases, as in the situation with the ambassadors, there's lots of new ideas and information floating around out there, and we think that all of this blends together to improve the message of why we need to make the kind of investments that standing still will not provide in transit or in medical transportation. In the midst of these discussions, we observed some very good news last week concerning the number 30,000, which appeared twice last week concerning, I think, memorable events within the association. First off, last week, we certified our 30,000th person in PASS, our special program that trains drivers and train the trainers on how to provide the best possible service to people with disabilities and special needs. In part, we hit that number 30,000 based upon improvements that were made in PASS by making it available online and making the training available online in new formats as opposed to just classroom-based training. We've managed to do that under the leadership of Len Cahill, who's been working very hard on that. And in addition to putting the certification online, Len was able to help us structure a new relationship coordinating our efforts with the University of Wisconsin. As you know, many people have viewed our program as a rival of theirs, but based upon the coordination agreement that was worked out, we're doing our programs together as the university has adopted PASS as their primary PASS special training program. From now on, when you get certified by PASS, whether you're from CTAA or the University of Wisconsin, you'll be certified by the university as well as by us, adding, we think, to the impact of the PASS program, since it will be the basic program for everyone. In addition to that 30,000 last week, we also passed another milestone on the 30,000 side on Rail Magazine. Rail Magazine was working with the National Association of Railroad Passengers, NARP, to develop ways we could work together. NARP, as you know, is the nation's leading advocate for bringing individuals into the legislative process to represent the importance of passenger rail. They will be redistributing our Rail Magazine through their network starting at the next issue. Combining their efforts with our own, PASS circulation will rise to 30,000 for each issue. These two 30,000s, both in PASS and in rail, would have been impossible without the kind of technology and techniques that have been developed in the last several years that allow us to use online publishing and distribution as we've never used it before. We're thinking that these 30,000 in both areas represent bottom lines, and I think over the year ahead you'll be hearing more from us about advances we've made on these and other fronts. But in this instance, that 30,000 in rail extends our voice and our legislative positions to a larger audience. That 30,000 in PASS extends our ideas of quality service to many more communities and individuals. So we're looking forward to finding additional ways to use this capacity in other areas of service. So, in the week ahead, you'll be hearing more from us concerning this legislative process and what's out there in these specific pieces of legislation, and I'll be doing a separate follow-up concerning the situation with non-emergency transportation. I hope that you'll have a good week, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon. In the meantime, have a nice day, and I'll be in touch shortly. Goodbye for now.